Comics and Cinema Club. I'm Drew.
And I'm Matt.
And today we're going to be talking about a very complicated topic today with the comics. Today we're going to be covering clones, and more specifically, Marvel clones versus DC clones, and why clones can sometimes just be way too friggin' confusing.
And to help us with this, I brought on a very special guest star, my own clone. Hey everybody, I'm the clone of Matt. And of course, we have our very handsome original. And right to his left, we have other clone. Wait, other clone? I'm the original though. What are you talking about? I'm the original. Yeah, he's the original. Wait, why do you get to be the original? Well, because I'm the original. Well, why do you get to be the original?
Hey, other clones, I want you guys to just follow me outside for a second. I gotta show you guys something. So
But he's the other clone.
Guys, I'm just gonna show you something.
You two go with him.
Come this way.
Yeah, take them away. Old Yellard.
Hey, hold still.
Yeah, that's
Now, where were we?
Oh yeah, that was a bad idea. And that's sort of a summation of how Marvel has been using clones. And we want to emphasize this because that's the title of this video. Marvel has a cloning problem.
Yeah, they really do. And sometimes that cloning problem can work out in their favor. Let's be honest. There are some clones we're going to talk about who have been used well. But then there's others who have not been used well. And a lot of this can all connect back to a saga that has become known as the Clone Saga. Spider-Man, who Marvel keeps wanting to fuck over for some reason.
And in one way they wanted to fuck over was through 1994 to 1996 with the second Clone Saga, because fun fact, that's not the original one. Apparently, the original Clone Saga was a little mini story from 1975, which introduced Ben Reilly, but left it ambiguous as to whether or not he survived. And then later they brought the idea back in the 90s in order to create an event that would rival DC's Death of Superman thing, which was taking the world by storm. But that in turn just created a whole lot of controversy, as the main goal of this book was to replace Peter Parker with a new, younger version of himself, i.e. Ben Reilly, which in turn is one of the problems that Marvel has with clones. It wants to try to use them as a replacement.
Yeah. For the record, this took 2 years.
2 years long.
This event was 2 fucking years long for no reason, just to try and be like, hey, we don't want Peter Parker to be Spider-Man anymore. And it was 2 years long, I'm pretty sure, because they just kept running out of ideas.
And it took over all of the titles. Web Spider-Man, like Spectacular Spider-Man, Amazing. We even got a new one specifically for Ben himself. Yeah. And it's like, come on, guys. Do you really think that this is that impressive? Like, that's as long as the Welbs run, honestly.
Yeesh. We don't need to talk about that.
Yeah.
But it's just, the problem with clones a lot of the times is that, and the way that Marvel has used them, especially Ben Reilly, like, let me make this clear. I actually like Ben Reilly. I have made it clear a couple of different times when I've talked with Matt. I think that Ben Reilly done right can be really cool and interesting. But the problem is that they keep misusing him and mistreating him and all the others. It's not just Ben who's a clone of Peter Parker. There's Kane, who was the original Spider-Man clone, supposedly. And then there's, if you look at the 1610 universe, the original Ultimate Universe, there was another clone who was the female version of Peter Parker, who was their Spider-Woman. And none of them have really been used that well, unfortunately, because they're never really given their own identity. There was a brief period of time, and there have been multiple brief periods of time, where they do try. Kane was the Scarlet Spider for a while. Ben was Spider-Man for a little while, both in the old runs and in the most current runs for a little bit. But then they keep getting regressed to their original spot and keep trying to be used as replacements. And I think that Ben's real fall from grace happened when they tried to bring him back in 2016 with the Clone Conspiracy, or Dead No More, which was basically just them saying, hey, we brought back Ben Reilly, guys. Isn't that cool? Yeah, he's a villain now. Yeah, aren't you guys so happy? And it was not. They were not happy.
And they're trying that path again with the character taking on the identity of Chasm, which nobody likes. I don't know a single person who is a fan of Chasm, and if they are, what's really wrong with you? Who hurt you, really?
They might be undoing that very shortly, though.
Hopefully, because I am sick to death of it. Because the problem with Chasm, his whole thing is that his memory is gone. Okay, how about you ask the telepath that you are in speaking terms with, Madeline Pryor, to fix your brain up. And if you don't want, and if she doesn't want to do it, why not go to, I don't know, Charles Xavier or Emma Frost or the actual Jean Grey, or how about Doctor Strange or anyone else? And I've gone on about this before. I'm not a fan of Chasm, But
Yeah.
one of the, but a key reason for that is it's just another sign that Marvel doesn't know what to do with Ben. They even outright admit he doesn't really have much of a place in Spider-Man's family right now, and that's just a shame because, like Drew said, when done right, he can be interesting.
Yeah.
But personally, I was never the biggest fan of Kane because, or Ben, or Kane for that matter, because for the longest time, Ben either spent his time trying to replace Peter or just being dead. And quite frankly, that's just not really a good usage of him, especially because if there is a clone of Peter Parker, I would want them to explore what makes him different, what makes him unique, what makes him his own Spider Man. In a similar vein to the other Spider people that are around right now, what makes them work is how different they are from Peter Parker. So really, I don't want him to try to be just like a replacement for Peter Parker. I want him to be his own person. For a while, he was when he after 2016, he was around. He appeared in different lines. I'm pretty sure Iron Man hired him for a couple of jobs once. But
Yeah, that was in like a Christopher Cantwell's run. Actually, he showed
yes,
up.
and there you go. That if you use him more like that, and it in turn makes his place feel more natural within the Marvel U. But as of now, he doesn't really have much of a place, and I don't really think that a lot of the writers want to give him one. Because even if they want to fix up Chasm, I don't see them using him well in the future. But that aside, there's another example of a clone gone wrong, which would be Madeline Pryor, who is treated better now, granted, but it took a long, long, long time for her to get any form of decent treatment, as it just seemed she existed solely to either replace Jean or suffer in the process of doing so.
Yeah. Here's the thing with Madeline Pryor, and this kind of connects to Chasm because there was this whole event a few years ago called Dark Web, where basically it was the clones gone wild. It was another clone saga, basically. But there were a lot of tie-ins where basically Madeline Pryor and Ben Reilly team up to destroy Jean Grey's and Peter Parker's lives, and the X-Men too. But the difference is that while Ben was being Zeb Wellsing and not being written well, Madeline Pryor actually made up with Jean Grey and was actually able to live her life and give him back her memories and not treated like a disposable character. Was actually treated like a human being. So she was actually done right in that regard. Granted, she's not been done right afterwards, but yeah.
At the very least, she's done very well in X Men '97, where
Yes.
she has a very compelling arc, and it
Until-
actually treats her up until she
up until she dies.
yeah. But nonetheless, it actually treats her and the storyline surrounding her with a lot of respect and maturity, which I do very much admire, and honestly didn't expect because when they announced they were doing Madeline Pryor, I was like, oh god, not now. But yeah, it actually worked out pretty well, and yeah, she was pretty pretty. That's what I'm trying to say. She's
very pretty. Very
yes.
yeah.
Yeah. That's the most
the other
peachy
thing with
way to
the
say it.
clones too is that sometimes they just go out of control. And I mean, there's a joke in the Deadpool video game where Mr. Sinister, who's very well known for cloning himself, they even in most recent comics were like, yeah, he cloned himself when he was in Nathaniel Essex and made four different clones who were supposed to like pursue different parts like magic, science, space, mutants, and that's where Mr. Sinister comes from. But point is that there was a joke in the Deadpool game where Deadpool is running around fighting Mr. Sinister, but he's killing all of his clones. And the very end of the game, he's just like, "Wait, that was it, right? We're done." And then Cable just shows up and gives him a thumbs up, and that's the end of the game.
But one of the most egregious examples that's very recent, mostly this is. Let me rephrase. A lot of the stuff that we just talked about, I could honest to God live with. But what's proving to show that this is more of a problem that Marvel has came very recently in X-Force with the introduction of Beast's clone. Because if you don't know, Hank McCoy, the current Beast in Marvel Comics, is not the original Hank. The original one went rogue, went insane. He tried to kill so many people in the name of protecting Krakoa because hell of a job he did. I mean, I'm just saying. But he in turn went nuts and became a bad guy, and now he's dead, and they just sort of replaced him with a clone from the time period where he worked with the Avengers and Wonder Man. And like, look, I'm all for returning Beast to that point in time, but I want it to be the original Beast. I don't want the original to be bastardized beyond repair and forced to a point where they feel the need to replace him, because that's disrespectful. He's one of the original X-Men, one of the most famous ones, and he's normally kind and compassionate and caring, but he suffered from bad characterization in this because he just kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed to villainy in a way that I don't really think flowed well. And
No.
for another, resulted in him not owning up to his mistakes or owning up to his actions in a meaningful way. He just sort of sacrificed himself to stop the plan. That's not good enough. I want to see him work his way to redemption. I want to see him earn his good graces back, not just be replaced.
Yeah.
That's cheap. That's lazy. It just doesn't really feel earned.
No.
It just shows Marvel doesn't really know what to do with clones, and it wants to try to treat them as a replacement, and that is a huge, huge disservice to all Marvel characters if you want to act like they're just replaceable.
Yeah.
So that's all I'll say.
Bit of context on Beast. So this was during the whole Krakoa age and whatnot when he was being written by as a member of X-Force, and basically he'd been in charge of protecting mutants and safeguarding them from humans and everything. But the deeper he got into it, the more sort of insane he became, until he was so convinced the only way to protect mutants was to basically brainwash and control Wolverine at his lower base function. And he basically had a backup system in place where multiple copies of himself were on standby, and he brought them all online because they were the only one he could trust.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing happened with Wolverine. Actually, they cloned him a couple of times in that same sort of run. But then he had an ultimate plan to basically use a super weapon to destroy a lot of humans, which was kind of dumb. Actually, no, I think he was trying to destroy the mutant nation of Arakoa that was on Mars. I don't know. Point is that it was dumb, and he ended up just like, it was very quick. Like, the original Beast, the X Force one, was arguing with the old Avengers Beast, and then the X Force Beast sacrificed himself for some reason. It didn't really make a lot of sense.
Nope.
It just kind of came out of left field and was really dumb and random. And then the old Beast is now the new Beast, or the new Beast is now it's confusing and it's dumb.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's not only just disrespectful, it's confusing as hell. Because now, if you want to treat all of your characters as replaceable or disposable with clones, then why the hell should I be reading them? Honest to God.
Another thing too is there was an issue of Spider-Man Spider Island where the Jackal shows up. He was a big part of it. He was like one of the main villains. But he basically is bringing Kane back to life. And as he's doing it, he goes, "Everybody must get cloned," and it's like, that's just the state of Marvel right now. Now, granted, they do have some good clones. We want to make that clear.
The best one I can safely say would be X-23, or Laura, who is made a name for herself and is treated with a lot of respect, and is even the star of her own Logan. Honestly, one of the best parts of the movie, truly, because that little actress, just Daphne,
she did a great
brought
job.
the character to life in an amazing way, and not to mention is now doing the same thing again in Deadpool. So that's really good. She, in turn, is treated with a lot of respect, a lot of care, and she has been since she was born. And I don't really think she has a whole lot of controversies around her.
Not a lot, no.
Not really.
The other thing, too, is that she didn't even start in the comics. She started in X-Men Evolution.
Yeah, she did, and that's true. And that was an interesting storyline. It's very much a Harley Quinn sort of situation there. So, and to this day, she still holds the title of Wolverine, a Wolverine. Like, Logan is still Wolverine, too, but there's a lot, Anybody can wear the name, I guess, but
anyone can wear the mask. They also did do a Miles Morales clone saga that, in my opinion, was a lot better.
Yes.
Because it wasn't trying to replace Miles. It was literally just 3 clones of himself, some of whom were very disfigured and different. They were basically just trying to take him out so that they could take his place. But it wasn't trying to be like, we want to, replace you as Spider-Man. It was just, we want to take over your life.
Yeah.
Which was much more different and a little better, and it was not as long, too. Plus, one of the characters, I think his name is Glorp or something. He ended up being something like that. He's like a slime-based character. But he ended up becoming a mainstay, too. So now he's a part of Miles' family, which is really cool and nice. And he's actually being accepted and not going the Ben Reilly route.
Yeah.
I think that in contrast to Marvel 2, the cloning problem, you have to look at DC. Because DC has a bunch of clones too. But they treat their clones with more respect. And I think 2 of the biggest examples of this would be Connor Kent, and also Power Girl. Like Power Girl's complicated. Let's make that clear because sometimes she's a clone, and then other times she's a copy of Superman's cousin from another universe. It's weird. It's confusing, but most of the time they are used and treated well. Most of the time they're given their own identities. Most of the time they're allowed to be their own characters. Especially Connor Kent. He's
Yeah.
allowed to 100% be his own character. And the whole point of him is like I have to. I'm not trying to fill Superman's shoes. I'm just trying to be a hero.
Yeah, and not to mention, Young Justice is definitely my favorite version because
Yeah.
he, in turn, was a he found. I remember one episode where he found out more about Project Cadmus, where he came from, and he discovered another clone of Superman called Match, who was basically his Bizarro. But he in turn found him. He wanted to try to give him a chance at life, but he understood the problem with trying to replace Superman. His Match's brain was unstable.
Yeah.
His biology would eventually deteriorate, and in the Young Justice comics, the tie-in comics, not the other mainline stuff, the timeline in the tie-in comics, he actually physically deteriorated to the point where he actually looked more like Bizarro, which was definitely freaky. And they just treat their clones with a whole lot more respect because, again, it understands that these clones are their own person. And another franchise that I think handles this just as well, if not in like the best way, would be Star Wars. Star Wars is able to treat all of its clones with so much care, so much passion, and so much of a sense of individuality that so many people's favorite characters in the franchise now are just clones. Like how many clones do you think people can name off the top of their heads? We got Rex, Cody, Cutter, Wolf, Gregor, the entirety of the Bad Batch. That's like 10 right off the top of my head.
The best thing and the greatest thing about those clones is that they're very similar, and it gets to the point where they're literally voiced by the same man, by D. Bradley Baker. He voices all of them. But the great thing too is that, like, first of all, I love seeing some pictures people take when they're like with D. Bradley Baker and take pictures, and then comments are like, "Wow, you got to meet Rex and Cody and the Bad Batch and Wolf," and like, because it's. But I think the greatest thing is that when you hear him do the voices, he makes them sound different. Like, yeah, a lot of them do sound similar, but then he does a good job of distinguishing one clone from another. And it makes it so that they're relatable, they're likable, you can connect with them, you can feel them. And they discuss the topic of being a clone. They're like, all we are clones. We're just numbers. But in reality, they're not. They discuss that. They're like, we're more than just the numbers and the clones that we're given. We have our own identities. We have our own personalities. And that's where Marvel can sometimes, and we're making this bit of a bash on Marvel, but that's where Marvel can sometimes fall off because Marvel doesn't want to give their clones identity. Sometimes they do. X-23 is a great example, like we said. Also, Scout or Honey Badger, her other nickname, who is the clone of Laura, the clone of the clone of the clone. And then you also have Joseph, who is the clone of Magneto, who he had a decent arc recently in a Scarlet Witch comic. He wasn't too bad in that. But then other times you just get clones like, Ben Riley, who's mistreated and misused and everything.
And it's a shame when people love to say Star Wars is dead, but I love to watch Clone Wars and I love to watch things where clones are presented, and I just see, no, that's a whole lot of life right there. It's a lot more, it's a lot better treatment than what other companies can do because two of the first Clone Wars arcs were Jedi specifically telling the clones that their individualism matters, that they themselves are individual people, that they're not expendable, that they have their differences and their similarities short. Because like if you hear Echo and Fives back to back, you'll probably have a hard time distinguishing them. But they are still their own characters, which is something that I don't really think Marvel seems to understand with clones, or at the very least, certain writers seems to understand.
Zeb Wells.
Yes, Zeb Wells. If you have a clone, you need to ensure that the audience can be interested in them by making them their own character. You can't just treat them that they're all the same, because that's boring, because that makes the original less unique. So ultimately, this is a Marvel bashing video, but we don't want to come across like we hate Marvel or whatever. We just say we do this because we know Marvel can do better. And we really, really, really hope that Marvel will eventually learn the right lessons in handling clones and in turn give them more of a chance to shine rather than just a chance to cast darkness or the opposite
Yeah,
of shine.
I mean, I'm really hoping that soon, at least, they can give Ben Riley more of a chance and Kane more of a chance and just get rid of this stupid Chasm stuff. Because Chasm is just like, it's not interesting. It's not fun. It's just boring. It's like, what are you trying to achieve with this? You're not really doing anything with it. And the same can be said for a lot of their other clone stuff. It just doesn't hit. It doesn't feel as developed. Another thing, too, I would like to mention real quick is Stepford Cuckoos, who are the clones of Emmett Frost. Some of them have personality and some of them have depth, like Phoebe, but, and I might get some people angry, I don't know what the others' names are. I'm not even kidding. I don't know who they are, and they don't have much of a personality either. And that leads back to a lot of the other clones. You don't give them personality, you don't give them depth, you don't give them a chance to really develop and grow and showcase that they are more than a clone, like Matt said the Star Wars clones do, or DC clones do. Then you just have blank slates.
Yeah. And it's a shame. I don't know. I didn't know any of them actually had names, truth be told.
Phoebe is. I think that's a recent thing.
I didn't even know one of them was named Phoebe. I just thought
she has like a relationship, or she had a relationship with Quentin Quire.
Oh.
Yeah.
Weren't any of those characters in the New Mutants movie, or am I going crazy?
No. They do have names, actually. I just looked them up. Celeste Cuckoo, Esme Cuckoo, Irma Cuckoo, Phoebe Cuckoo, Sophie Cuckoo.
One flew over the cuckoo's nest.
Basically.
Clearly.
But I, like, maybe that was rude to say, but I don't know.
No, I genuinely didn't know. And truth be told, I didn't even know they were clones. I just thought they were kids Emma found.
No, I'm pretty sure they're clones. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
if that's the case.
If they are, they are. But I'm I think they might be. That makes way more sense.
I feel like they are. I could be completely wrong. And if I am, oh no, their species is mutant clones.
Okay, there we go. So yeah, ultimately what we want to see is Marvel handle clones better, because the idea is a very good one. We don't want to bash the idea of cloning because it can lead to a lot of great results. We just want them to get their crap together, because it's not fair for all of these characters to come into existence when they didn't ask for it, to be mistreated like this, and it's not fair to the original characters to treat them as if they're replaceable or indispensable. So really, I really hope Benjamin Percy's handling the current Beast, right? Or is
he was. He's not anymore now. It's Jed MacKay.
Okay, I really hope Jed MacKay's a great writer. I really hope MacKay is able to make an arc in the current X-Men book that the clone of Beast maybe tries to bring back the original, or grapples with his own identity as a clone, because that's something that I think might be more respectful to the idea of the original Beast than just replacing him. That's all I'll say.
Something else I always thought too, I thought this was the old Beast. Like, I thought that maybe he was in disguise or something, because they never made it really clear. And that's the thing with clones. You don't make it very clear. I am going to throw this out, though. I know Tom Taylor's been getting some flack lately because of his Nightwing stuff, because a lot of people don't like it as much anymore, I guess. But he did Lord Kidding X-23 when it was first coming out, and I think it was like 2016 or something like that. He did a great job, in my opinion. He was the reason that we have Honey Badger, and we had some good arcs with her, and it's a great clone story, in my opinion, for the most part. Another thing I'd like to throw out, too, and this is just about DC, because we've been bashing Marvel. DC also going to have a clone problem, especially when they try and do Batman stuff, because there's Heretic, who basically was an attempt at cloning Robin, and it was not great. They did end up, because there was a whole thing at the end of Grant Morrison's Batman and Robin, where basically there's this big vat of clones, but that never got explored. Well, Batman Inc., I think. And they did end up bringing that back recently. They didn't really do much with it, but they brought it back. So
they handled a clone Batman in Zdarsky's run, didn't they? Yeah.
They recently did do that. It was meant to be a younger clone of Bruce Wayne, but they handled it pretty well because he was rapidly aging. So they basically just confronted it, and he confronted like what it means to be Batman and Bruce Wayne, which was really interesting.
Yeah, that was a very nice story there. So again, DC seems to have a better understanding of it. They can have their issues. They can have their issues for sure, but I don't think they're as massive or as major as Marvel's are.
No. Here's the other thing too. I mean, at the very least, we haven't had a Venom clone saga
yet. Don't give them ideas.
Yeah, maybe they'll do that for number 50.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, I think that's going to do it for us. But thank you guys for joining us and for hearing this clone-related conversation. And you guys have a good day.
Don't listen to that, Matthew. He's another clone. What? How did you get out? Don't listen to him. Everything in this video is a lie. Matthew loves the clones. Get back, you.
You guys have a good day. Bye.